Welcome to another transformative conversation as we unlock the edge of leadership and business growth with an extraordinary guest. She's a powerhouse in the business world, a dynamic leader, speaker, and educator who has shaped the success of major organizations. She's been seen in Business Insider, Newsmax, Yahoo Finance, and the New York Post. And you may remember her from our last summit, but today she's stepping into a bold new role as the Chief Revenue Officer at Accruity. She is redefining business strategy, scaling revenue, and helping companies break through their growth ceilings. Beyond that, she's a leadership consultant, a CRO who knows what it takes to build high-performing teams, increase profitability, and create cultures of success. We're diving deep into the mindset, strategy, and leadership principles that separate thriving businesses from those that struggle to stay afloat. This conversation isn't just about tactics, it's about the leadership, vision, and execution required to build and scale a thriving business. So let's get into it, and please welcome the one and only Amanda Webster.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. I'm always excited to help you with any of these summits. I love being able to provide any, insights, education, whatever I can to help everybody grow.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. So, starting off with the foundation of business growth, you've led organizations as COO, CRO, and now at Accruity as Chief Revenue Officer. In your experience, what are the top 3 leadership traits that separate extraordinary leaders from the mediocre ones?
Well, I think the number one that most leaders should know is visionary thinking, right? You've got to be a visionary. You got to be able to see where things are going, be able to have plans and not just deal with the present. That's what, managers do. So being able to be a visionary thinker is essential. The number 2 thing that I think a lot of people discount is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can really hinder your growth if you don't understand what it means and how it affects your decision-making skills, how it affects your ability to lead teams. Being able to handle things in a high emotional intelligence is going to factor in huge in your leadership role with any company, no matter what industry. And then decisiveness with accountability, right? Great leaders have to be able to make really tough decisions, and they have to be able to also take responsibility of that. Your team will follow you so much further if you admit when the accountability falls on your shoulders. That is one of the key components I have always led with is, the failures come to me. It's not my team's fault. If the team fails, it's because I didn't set them up for that success. So making tough decisions, but also always being 100% accountable.
Thank you. I like that. Well, so many entrepreneurs struggle with leadership, not just leading teams, but leading themselves. What advice do you have for business owners who want to level up their leadership game, but feel stuck in the day-to-day grind?
So the biggest issue of why they're stuck is they're still being an operator, right? They're in that operator mindset. They're just being the doer. And to be the leader, you can't. You've got to shift that mindset to the leader mentality. You can't be the doer, right? So in order to do that is ruthless priorities and delegation. If you have to figure out what your priorities are and delegate the rest. I love the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time should be on revenue generating things, 20% on, different types of minuscule tasks or maybe things that you enjoy working on. So being able to delegate everything else is huge. Developing yourself, right? Spending time to grow, to go into having a mentor, going to courses and developing your leadership habits is going to be huge to keep growing, right? So your business will only ever be limited by your own growth. It has to kind of be in sync. And I always say, surrounding yourself with the right people. You have to surround yourself with growth-minded oriented people, with people that are going to help elevate you. I always say I don't want to be the smartest person in the room unless I'm the one teaching. I always want to be in a room with other people that are growing faster than me so I can learn why. And then I always bring it back to accountable. So setting clear, bold goals and holding yourself accountable to them because nobody else is going to be accountable for your leadership goals.
All right. Those are some great insights. You've worked with high performing teams in different industries. What's the secret to building a culture where people don't just work for a paycheck, but are fully invested in the company's mission?
So I think it first starts with defining and communicating that clear mission. Like, what is that? What is it that your company actually stands for? And being able to communicate that from day one, from the time that you're posting a job on on the job sites to the interview, to the onboarding, into the everyday life. So you can't not communicate that and expect people to do it. One of the things I've seen and I've had to adjust, and I've made this mistake myself too, is you have to hire for the culture fit over just the skills. Skills are necessary. I mean, if it's a certification type thing, yeah, you have to have that one point, but the actual culture fit needs to be that first positioning for you because if it's not there, it's never going to last. And one of the things a company can spend a lot of time on, obviously, is retaining employees. So making sure that culture fit is there from day one. I think, empowering your people is probably another piece of that. They have to be empowered, but also teaching them to take ownership and building trust within them. That's going to help a healthy culture no matter what it is. And I'm always a proponent of building a feedback cycle, making sure your staff and even your partners are always being able to have healthy feedback so that we can continue to grow. It's just necessary. And then, like investing in yourself, invest in your people's growth. Don't be afraid that they're going to leave your organization because you've handed them all of these skills and this great education, because I promise you it will never be for a bad thing. Investing in people's growth and well-being is only going to help not only retain employees, but for them to then tell their amazing other people outside of the workforce how amazing it is to work there. So, the last thing I would say is team first mentality. Having a team mentality is 100% there. And all of this will have to be a daily thing. You can't just say things with words.
Mhm.
Culture is built on a daily level on how you execute every day.
Awesome. I like that where you do the culture first because you can always teach the skills, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like that.
100%.
hmm What's one of the biggest leadership mistakes you've seen that holds businesses back from scaling and achieving real success?
Nobody else can do it as good as I can. So I have to keep doing it, right? I think that's the biggest thing as a leader. And trust me, I have had points of struggle with this myself. This isn't, a judgmental thing.
Mhm.
That's what creates bottlenecks, creates burnout, limits growth is you can't do everything. You have to be able to build a team that is you can depend on and that you can then step into that leadership mindset. So the number one mistake that I feel kills it is always believing you're the only one who can do it and you're the best one to do it because that's an egotistical statement and isn't factual.
All right, I like that. Well, you've been in the trenches of business growth, scaling companies to new heights. If a business is making six figures but struggling to scale, what's the first place they should look to unlock that growth?
First, within themselves, are they the leader being the reason that you can't get there, right? So just making sure that you've kind of checked yourself first. Then it needs to go into, have you done the process where things are systemized? Is everything being delegated properly? Are the right people in the right seats, making sure you don't have a process or a people issue?
Mhm.
Sometimes simplifying your offer. I think some people get caught up in they need to offer so many things. Sometimes it's simplifying it, niching down can also help with those bottlenecks of growth. You got to leverage marketing and automation. You got to embrace AI. You got to be able to find ways for a system to help, create more efficiencies in there. And then optimizing for profit and cash flow and not only focusing on revenue, right? A lot of people get stuck in focusing on that revenue number, but aren't paying attention to what are they holding? What are they keeping into that number? And I think if you optimize profit and cash flow, it helps scalability.
I like that because a lot of times we have all this the revenue and the sales and everything, but then at the end of the year, we didn't keep as much.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%.
And all that hard work and and you still aren't any further ahead. So
100, yes.
yeah, yeah, I like that. There's so much noise out there about scaling a business. Some say it's about more leads, others say it's about better operations. In your view, what's the most overlooked but critical factor in achieving sustainable growth?
I think in that visionary seat, right, is you have to be able to forecast, can my business handle if I 10x right now? And do I even have the fulfillment side of my business dialed into an extent that I know exactly when I need to hire that next person? I know exactly when I need to grow a department, when I need to separate roles. I think that operations is where I go with that because leads are necessary, but if you have too many leads and not enough salespeople, how are you going to be able to close them? So I think it's looking at the operational from the top of that funnel all the way in is one of the things that people kind of just don't pay attention to. They just think, yeah, I need more leads. I need more this. I need more that. When in reality, it's going to overwhelm your team. It's going to provide poor service, which then client retention becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And so then it eats into your profit again. So you can have all that revenue and you can think you're doing this, but if you haven't streamlined and systemized the operations, you can't handle it. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people need to look at and why an integrator operator role is super important in your business when you get to that point is can your team grow with you? When do you need to have more team? Like just looking at those pieces from a true operational excellence point.
All right. Well, what do you think the biggest myth is about business growth that you think is misleading entrepreneurs today?
Similar path, right? More revenue equals more success. I think that's like the biggest myth that people have that mindset of. And it's not true. It's did it lead to more profit? Where is that profit margin? Do you even know if you wanted to sell and exit your business today, what your EBITDA is? What is your actual multiplier you could do that for? And a lot of people don't understand their financials. It really breaks down to where in your financials are you maybe having wasteful spending that's leading to less? Because again, revenue is a great number. You need revenue, but profit needs to come first. That's what's going to help you scale. Having the systems in there, cash flow, right? Cash flow is a necessary thing for anything you do. So I think that's the biggest thing is just thinking revenue equals growth. It doesn't matter. You can make more sales, but maybe you're not going to keep them at that point. Or you have a huge bloated overhead expense over here that you're not monitoring.
Yeah. Those are some good things. I hope the audience is writing those down. You've been featured in major media like Business Insider, Newsmax, Yahoo Finance. What role does credibility and authority play in business growth, and how can entrepreneurs position themselves as an industry leader?
So, like anybody, right? I'm a consumer as well. So the first thing I do when I'm looking at working with someone is I'm gonna go Google that business, that leader, that person, whatever, and I'm gonna look and see what's out there. So, mindset in my brain as the consumer is if there is authority out there, if this person's been featured in things, if this person has a lot of credibility, if their business has a lot of reviews, which is another piece of that authority, it's going to shorten that sales cycle because you're not going to have to convince me to trust you more, right? So it can shorten that because industry average for a service-based business like 6 touch points. That's a long sales cycle. So if you can shorten it, it's going to help your overall numbers, right?
Mhm.
So also it can increase pricing power, right? The more that you're trusted, the more authority you have, the more people will pay for your expertise. So that can help you down the road. Competitive difference, right? So you can create a differentiate between your competitor if you are a more notable source, if you're able to show that. If someone goes to an event and sees you on stage, but not your competitor, there's a whole mindset that goes into that as the consumer. It'll open bigger opportunities. The more that you're seen, the more you're going to be offered those abilities to speak, to be featured, to be interviewed. So it's just kind of like an ever growing cycle that happens. To position yourself there, I always say, pick a lane with your expertise. Don't try to be an expert of all things.
Mhm.
Pick that one thing you're really, really good at and tell that story. Tell it organically for a while before I would even try to get into, being featured. But I also think it's super important to have a partner in that. I am not a PR expert. I cannot sell myself for anything. It's not my expertise. So I think having somebody help you in the beginning, getting featured, getting on podcasts, getting a weekly TV segment, whatever it is that you need to do, writing a book and then getting that book out there, all of those things, I feel having a partner is going to help you leverage it and then get you on more stages, get you to host events, get you into more publications.
At this summit, we're talking about unlocking the entrepreneurial edge. In your experience, what separates business owners who thrive from those who struggle?
It's again, I feel like those three buckets of systems, people, and strategy, right? So struggling people in the business world just get stuck in that hustle. Like they're just hustling, they're wearing all the hats, they're doing all the things. Again, people can't do it for them. And I think that's really when you can come and click that in your brain of operator versus CEO. Like you've got to get to that shift is huge in that. And then obviously, having the right people, the 80-20 rule, making sure you're focusing on revenue generating, you know, hope versus predictability in marketing, right? Actually looking and understanding your numbers, understanding where you should be marketing. There's so many different things that you can go in there. And then delegation, right? Don't micromanage, lead your team, let them do the things that they're supposed to be doing. And, again, growth versus cash flow struggles, making sure that you're actually holding on to more money and stop focusing so much on the revenue, but being able to understand where that revenue is going.
Well, you've recently taken a new leadership role. What personal mindset shifts or growth strategies have helped you transition into bigger leadership roles over time?
So naturally, earlier on in my career, I was a doer. I was the doer, I was the operator, I was the one doing all of it. And so I've had to internally learn how to grow and become a strategic thinker. Having that shift personally for me and being able to start focusing on the outcomes and the visions and where are we at in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, being able to not problem solve in the moment, letting my team problem solve in the moment, right? The art of delegation has been something I struggled with personally, and I had to have that shift in myself and knowing that I can't do all those things. And I'm not the best person to do all those things, right? Because I can only do so many things really great, and the rest are just being done mediocre. Who can own it? That's one of the questions I always ask myself when I'm doing any type of project is who can own it? Who on my team can own this and do a far better job than me? And then I can go, okay, you're good. You can own that. And setting out those clear expectations for them. So that was a huge thing for me of being able to do there. And making bigger, smarter decisions has been huge for me and not worrying about, the little decisions, letting them handle that and
Mhm.
always doing it scared, right? Failure equals data for me. I'm a data person, but also growth. So embracing the failure and not being afraid of it, still being a little scared of it, right? You got to be a little scared of the failure. You got to do a little bit scared, but I think that's huge. And then the last piece that's I think big for any person making the shift that I've had to do is effective communication. Making sure I can communicate my thoughts, what I'm wanting, my expectations to my team, and then trusting they're going to do it.
Awesome. Well, the business landscape is shifting rapidly with AI automation and new economic challenges. What are the biggest business growth trends entrepreneurs need to prepare for 2025 and beyond?
So the first thing is embrace AI, right? Embrace it in that it's going to help you be more efficient. It's not replacing anybody, it's not replacing any actual things. It's just being able to be more efficient. I mean, it's imagine being able to research a paper and write it for your doctorate degree now in the AI world, even if you're just looking for the sources, looking for things, right? You're still going to have to QC everything. You can't just throw things into Chat GPT and say, okay, it's done. That's not how it works. But also embracing the ability to automate things, which is a form of AI that's going to help you and your team be more efficient. That's going to be 100% how 2025 is coming, right? You've got to be able to leverage AI to scale faster, to communicate faster, to help your team in those things. I'm sure Deb, and you work on it too, personal branding, right? Being able to take the chief people in your business, the owners in the business, and create personal branding for them because the next generation is social media heavy. That's just their life. And the next generation of entrepreneurs, the next generation of leaders, you got to have personal branding out there because when they try to be your customer, they're looking you up on Facebook. They're looking you up on these things. So building that trust-based business that's able to be seen out there, that's going to be huge and continue to grow in 2025. And then the thing that I have always said, and it's coming true and I love it, is that subscription reoccurring revenue model is going to dominate everything. It's going to be the main thing, especially in that service-based industry that kind of just dominates all the things. You know, you have to be able to have reoccurring revenue so you're not always just chasing new clients. You know, you have this set amount, you learn your churn rate of when people drop off, you perfect that. That is going to be huge in 2025 as well. I think you're going to see a lot of higher ticket offers grow as the economy grows. I do feel the economy is going to grow. I know people don't always see that right now, but the way that it's going, I think long term, we're going to have a reshaped economy that's going to help business owners. And so confidence will come in to where higher ticket offers are there. So again, that's all going to be driven by your personal branding, your authority in the space, and being able to offer your services at a higher rate because people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what's one piece of advice you wish every entrepreneur would take to heart before stepping into a leadership role?
First, learn how and what it means to have a lean, agile business. I think that is key to being able to pivot and understanding the market and how you can be, because if you're lean and agile, you're able to overcome a lot of things, right? Investing in yourself, start it early, get a mentor. You don't have to make all the mistakes. You can learn from other people's, and they're willing to tell you what those mistakes were, right?
Yeah.
So being able to do that from an early place, you know, and always building long-term relationships, long-term strategic relationships with customers, with clients, with communities, with referral business. All of those things are key, I feel, to building and scaling your business. You have to have long-term relationships with people because people love working with people. Doesn't matter what your service or product is. That's just how it works. So taking the time to actually build those relationships and being very true and authentic to yourself, no matter who that is, because you will attract the right people.
Awesome. Well, where can people connect with you to learn more about you?
I am on every social media platform, Amanda Webster, most of them are Amanda Webster COO. I try to give as much daily insights as I can. You can also learn more about, the company I'm now leading, Accruity.com. And I love to, have any feedback. So when you're following me, give me feedback. Put some message in those chats. I love to get into discussions with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Amanda, this conversation has been packed with gold from leadership insights to business growth strategies, and most importantly, how to unlock that entrepreneurial edge. What you've shared today is exactly the kind of high level thinking that separates thriving business owners from those who are constantly struggling. For those watching, this is your wake up call. Business growth isn't just about tactics, it's about stepping into leadership, making bold decisions, and building an unshakable foundation for success. Amanda, thank you for bringing your expertise, your leadership, and your wisdom to this conversation.
Thank you for having me.